That was a pretty good Super Bowl. I'm not going to lie. That was a pretty good Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs won Super Bowl 57 by a final score of 38-35 over the Philadelphia Eagles. Like I said, claiming their second title in 4 years and third in franchise history. Patrick Mahomes, as I predicted on Friday's show, would be Super Bowl MVP and was the Super Bowl MVP and played his best Super Bowl. And, what was fascinating about this game is that almost everything, certainly offensively, that could have went Philadelphia's way, absent the fumble by Jalen Hurts that got picked up by Nick Bolton for a touchdown. Aside from that, everything that went the way that they could have possibly dreamed of. They dominated time and possession, 36-24. They went up and down the field. Kansas City, up until the second half, into the third quarter, into the fourth, could not get off the field on third down. Matter of fact, Eagles went 11 for 18 on third down. They were great on third down. Their quarterback completed a high percentage of his throws, ran for a Super Bowl record 3 touchdowns, threw for another on the deep ball to A.J. Brown. Speaking of that deep ball to A.J. Brown, that McDuffie kid who's had a really good rookie season, I tweeted about the game during the game last night. He reminded me of a center fielder not being able to see a fly ball because the sun's out, like the ball getting caught in the sun. Like that's what it looks like. It was, it's like he couldn't see the ball. It was a perfect throw by Jalen, a great catch by A.J. Brown for a touchdown. But you go into the game up double digits, 24-14. You're feeling good about yourselves. But as I said about Patrick Mahomes, I checked to make sure when I said this. I said it all the way back in week 5 of this season. And frankly, I should have said it seasons ago as opposed to just this year. There is no quarterback in the history of the NFL. Yes, you heard me right. The history of the NFL that I would rather have trailing double digits than Patrick Mahomes. And boy, did that come to fruition last night. They're down double digits. By the way, the Kansas City Chiefs are the second team in Super Bowl history to come back from a double-digit halftime deficit. The other one, you might have guessed it, Tom Brady, 28-3 comeback against Atlanta. We all remember that one, of course. But this was Patrick Mahomes' first great Super Bowl moment. Comes in the game, all the reports, I remember Peter Schrager of Fox Sports and the NFL Network was talking about, hey, his ankle is the healthiest it's been since he injured it 3 weeks ago in the divisional round against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's feeling good. All the reporters said he looks great in practice. Mahomes said he felt good. It's all good until he gets his ankle caught in a hit towards the end of the first half. He's limping toward the sideline. He's grimacing. The train staff's working on. We're like, oh my goodness, this could be it for Kansas City. I don't know what they gave him at halftime. Some kind of shot, I'm sure. But in the second half, ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Mahomes goes 13 for 14. The one incompletion was a throwaway. Not to mention he had that long run on that last drive to get them in position to get that game-winning field goal with 8 seconds left. Everything that you could have possibly wanted from Mahomes. You may say, oh, you look at the box score. He only threw for 182 yards. Yeah, but he completed 77% of his passes, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, a passer rating of 132, and a QBR. Those who don't know the stat, QBR, it's 0 to 100. It grades running. It grades, obviously, your stats, passing. Passes should have been intercepted if you did throw an interception, but it wasn't your fault. It takes everything in consideration and ranks it 0 to 100, just like a standardized test. You want to know what Patrick Mahomes got? A 96. He's only the second Super Bowl quarterback all time to have a QBR in the 90s. The only other one was Joe Flacco in the 2012 Super Bowl 47, 10 years ago against the San Francisco 49ers. Not to mention, Patrick Mahomes did this against a defense that was known for getting the quarterback, and maybe we should give more credit. Matter of fact, we should give more credit to Kansas City's offensive line, because I talked about on Friday, this game was going to be won or lost in the trenches. Kansas City won the game. Certainly the offensive line. You talk about Orlando Brown, Creed Humphrey, my man, Super Bowl champion out of Tennessee, Trey Smith. Congrats to my man who coined the orange britches years ago. Vols fans will understand what I'm talking about. But that Kansas City offensive line could not play better. A Philadelphia defense that had 70 sacks in the regular season, which is an all-time record. They did not get to Patrick Mahomes once. Gave him time to hit Kelce. Obviously, Juju Smith-Schuster was a huge factor in the second half. Jarrett McKinnon played well. Isaiah Pacheco. This kid runs his behind off. Listen. It's still weird to see another Kansas City Chief wearing number 10 after the departure of Tyreek Hill a year ago, but the physicality of this guy is unbelievable. Speaking of which, we think about Kansas City, or certainly we thought about Kansas City as opposed to Philadelphia as the more maybe finesse team, right? They've got the quarterback who can, throw underhanded, no look. Hey, he probably can go behind the back for all we know. You got Travis Kelce, who's the best tight end in football, and you got all these skill position playmakers, and Andy Reid, the great offensive play designer. We never thought of them as this team that's just going to beat you up and hit you in the mouth. Certainly not compared to the team that they faced last night. Eagles, best offensive line in the league. Certainly 2 Hall of Famers on that team. Lane Johnson, Jason Kelce. Not to mention a defense that was first in the NFL and first all time in the regular season in sacks. The biggest shock of the game, and maybe it shouldn't have been, because when I did my NFL playoff weaknesses, I'm going to review those on Thursday's show. When every year going into the playoffs, all 14 teams, I list their biggest weakness. Essentially, what's the biggest reason they will not win the Super Bowl? And what was mine for the Eagles? They can't stop the run. Kansas City a couple weeks ago against the Cincinnati Bengals had 34 rushing yards on 17 attempts. Last night, 158 rushing yards on 26 attempts. For those of you doing the math, that's 6 yards a carry. Philadelphia, on the other hand, couldn't run the football. This is a team, its quarterback was mobile. They had Miles Sanders who made the Pro Bowl. They had that Gainwell kid who was nice. Philadelphia had 115 yards, and they would not have sniffed that if Jalen Hurts hadn't gone for 70 on the ground himself. I mean, again, Kenneth Gainwell, 21 yards on 7 carries. Miles Sanders averaged 2.3 yards a carry. He was a no-show. And Boston Scott, who, is turns back into Boston Scott when he's not playing the New York Giants, had less than 3 yards a carry. That was essentially the game. Not to mention, and now all these Eagles fans, I'll get to the James Bradberry play in just a second that everybody's talking about, but the play that everybody's forgetting about. Kansas City's up. I think it was 28-27 at this point. They get a stop in Philly. There's about 9 minutes left in the game. Eagles punt, and what happens? The midseason acquisition, the guy who was pretty quiet all year with Kansas City, a guy who we were thinking, man, this dude is a draft bust from the New York Giants. I remember Kadarius Toney at Florida. Dude was electric. And he showed that electricity off with the longest punt return in Super Bowl history, 67 yards, to get Kansas City down to the 5-yard line, and they punched it in. Let's also give credit where it's due to Andy Reid. What a game plan. You consider the fact that, and this is why I always say, I was talking about this on IG Live last night, what separates the great coaches from the either bad ones, even the pretty good ones, the good coaches. I think Nick Sirianni's a good coach. But what separates Sirianni from Andy Reid? Halftime adjustments. You think about those 2 touchdowns, all on almost identical plays. They just happen on opposite sides of the field. Sky Moore to the left, Kadarius Toney to the right. There wasn't an Eagle within 10 yards of them when they caught the ball and scored. Eagles did not adjust. Chiefs did. And that's your Super Bowl. Again, I said the thing I was most wrong, I picked Kansas City to win the game close. But the thing that I could not have been more wrong on Friday's show when I predicted this game was that, I don't think Kansas City's going to be able to run the ball at all. 158 yards later, 6 yards a carry later. What a night. What a game. Hats off to the Chiefs. I may do a segment later on this week about where this ranks among the greatest Super Bowls. Again, and I've been saying this all season long. I said this on my season preview way back in early September, around Labor Day. I said, I promise you, I don't care who's in the Super Bowl. We're going to get a classic. It's something about those Arizona Super Bowls. I don't know what it is, but you got the Giants coming back on the Patriots, the 18-0 Patriots, and beating them when they were undefeated. Then you obviously had the Malcolm Butler pick at the 1-yard line back in Super Bowl 49, and then you had the game last night. It was a remarkable night. Hats off to the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions. Philadelphia Eagles, certainly nothing to hang their heads over. They had an incredible season as well, and certainly offensively put up an incredible fight in the second half. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.